What do you think makes this chord progression work? There's a simple system that you can use to always know what chord to play next in your progressions. So in this video, I'm going to show you what this system is, why chords can be seen like different sections of a roller coaster, and how easy it is to use this so you always know what chord to play next. Fairgrounds and theme parks have changed significantly since they were first constructed, and at the heart of this evolution is the roller coaster. What started initially as sliding mountains, using hills of ice, then developed into more formal amusements, such as the promenade aérienne, which was popular in 19th century Paris. Later in the century, the rise in the popularity of the railways provided an opportunity to further develop the idea of the roller coaster. A popular example of this could be found at Coney Island in New York with the Switchback Railway. Over time, more roller coaster developments allowed riders to move in increasingly thrilling ways, including being looped upside down. As coaster designers dreamt of more elaborate sections, they turned to different track materials, including tubular steel in the 1950s. This opened the floodgates to 20th and 21st century innovations, which give you the amazing experiences available at theme parks around the world today. Like the roller coaster is to a theme park, one of the most important parts of Western music is harmony, also known as chords. In a similar way to roller coasters, the idea of harmony has developed over many centuries to take the form we know it in now. It began with several melodic lines being heard at the same time. This led to the concept of chords becoming popular. In particular, triads started to become more widely used. This is the case today, with the likes of major and minor chords featuring everywhere in music. With musicians being comfortable with the idea of chords, this naturally led to an awareness that certain harmonic movements, or chord progressions, were more common than others. From here, ideas such as tonality and chords' relationship to the tonic began to develop over hundreds of years. This allowed the reasons why these progressions work to be easily explained and communicated. This ultimately led to what we now know as the theory of functional harmony. Functional harmony explains that each chord in a key can be put into a certain category based upon its function. These functions are simply the role that a chord plays within a progression. You can think of this like a roller coaster. Different parts of the track play different roles, or have different functions, in propelling the cars around the ride. The exact layout will create different effects for the rider and change the overall feel of the coaster. The functional role of chords are all related to the creation of cadences. A harmonic cadence is a progression of two or more chords that concludes a phrase, section, or piece of music. This creates a sense of full or partial resolution. You can get a really clear feeling of this if you follow the most basic of major key chord progressions, 1, 4, 5, 1. Listen to the feeling of resolution when you hear the 1 chord after the 5 chord in this C major key example. If you want to discover more with specific examples on the guitar, then head over to writeasongpodcast.com and check out the video there with the same title as this one. Link is also in the description. Now you might be asking, what is the point of functional harmony? The main purpose is to understand why chords move in a certain way within progressions. This then allows you to create chord progressions that are very clear and logical in the way that they move. It also gives you the ability to see when these rules have been broken or ignored in a progression, increasing your knowledge of harmony and ultimately improving your songwriting. Certain types of music are built almost entirely on functional harmony principles. In particular, classical and jazz stick pretty rigidly to these ideas, so if you want to better understand these genres, then you'll want at least some knowledge of functional harmony. And even if you're not interested in these styles of music, the influence of functional harmony is still felt in much of Western music, and its principles can still have a benefit for your songwriting. When you get on a roller coaster, you always start at the station. This is like the home of the ride, where people get on and off the trains. It's the point of maximum stability and rest. There may also be moments out on the track where you have a level piece of track, maybe with some breaks. These provide a similar experience to the station. You can think of the tonic chord in a progression in a similar way. The primary tonic is the 1 chord in major keys and the 1 chord in minor keys. This is the most important chord as it defines the key. You also have other chords that can act as functional substitutes for the primary tonic. These chords share 2 notes in common with the primary tonic, so feel strongly related. These are like the piece of level track on the roller coaster. They bring the rider stability and temporary rest along the journey, but they aren't as final as arriving at the station. In major keys, these are the chords 6 and 3, and in minor keys it would also be 6 and 3. Let's go back to the previous example in the key of C major. On the first repeat, I'll play 1, 4, 5, 1. Then on the second repeat, I'll play 3, 4, 5, 3. And on the final repeat, 6, 4, 5, 6. Listen to how the sound of the chords change, but they still work in the progression. This means that anywhere that the one chord occurs, you can use these functional substitutes and maintain the same feel and function of the progression. When a cadence is created with one of these substitute tonic chords, it is known as a deceptive cadence, because the listener has been deceived about arriving home, a bit like a temporary flat section halfway through a roller coaster. This is the first of 3 different groups of chords within the functional harmony system. Thinking about a roller coaster again, what would you consider to be the opposite of the station? It would be a downhill section with a steep angle and the train moving at high speed. While you were relaxed and at ease in the station, now at the point of maximum speed, you are at the most exciting and tense part of the ride. You can think of the next group of chords much like the roller coaster drop. They are called dominant function chords. They provide tension, a feeling of being unsettled and wanting to return home. In major and minor keys, this role is played by the major 5 chord. Just be aware that major 5 chords are not diatonic to the natural minor/Aeolian keys. This chord will strongly pull you back to the 1 chord. When travelling downhill, there are different gradients that are possible. Some are more steep than others, creating greater speed. These allow track designers to vary the experience of the rider. As with tonic chords, there are also functional substitutes for dominant chords, which allow you to vary the tension in your songs. In major keys, this would be the 7 diminished chord. In minor keys, there isn't a strict substitute, but you might sometimes see the 7 diminished chord used as well. Listen again to the 1, 4, 5 progression in the key of C major. Pay particular attention to how the 5 chord provides tension and feels unsettled until the 1 chord is heard and resolution is felt. Also listen for the second repeat, where the 5 chord is replaced with the diminished 7 chord. If you associate one sound with roller coasters, what would it be? Many people would say the chain of a lift hill, building up anticipation as it takes you to the highest point of the ride. These usually take you to a downhill section, but occasionally they'll take you up to another flat or level part of the ride before travelling up higher or dropping down. You can think of this third and final group of chords in the functional harmony system much like this lift hill. They are called the predominant function chords. They are neither the tonic nor the dominant. They act as a bridge between the two, or a link like the lift hill. They are a part of what makes the roller coaster move and work. The primary predominant chords are 4 and 2 in major keys and 4 and 2 diminished in natural minor. So you've heard this stepping stone between 1 and 5 in all of the C major key examples presented so far with the 4 chord. I'll play it again now and then change it for the 2 chord on repeat. Listen out for the difference in the feeling between the two. You might also see chords labelled with specific chord functions, not just Roman numerals. In major keys, these are 1 tonic, 2 supertonic, 3 mediant, 4 subdominant, 5 dominant, 6 submediant, and 7 leading tone. So you have these 3 elements that are fundamental in a roller coaster. But how do you put it all together to create an interesting ride? Well, you know you'll need a station and a drop at some point, and you can't travel from a downhill section to an incline without having even a small flat section. So there are some basic rules for constructing a roller coaster that maintains forward motion and enough interest to keep the riders amused. In a similar way, the 3 groups of functional harmony chords have some rules to follow to maintain chord progressions that move forward. To begin, you can start on any chord, then follow the rules for that chord type to choose where to go next. The tonic chords are the point of rest. As such, they can move to any other chord, including other tonics. The main function of predominant chords is to move to a dominant chord, as the name suggests, but they can also move back to a tonic chord. This just provides a weaker, more passive sound. You might have heard of the plagial cadence, which is when you move from 4 to 1 in major keys. This falls under this category. It's also common for predominant chords to move to another predominant chord before the dominant. This prolongs the predominant feeling, which can sometimes be desirable. Dominant chords are driving in one direction at speed. They want to move to the tonic 1 chord or a functional substitute. If you're struggling to remember all of these rules, then there is also a chart version of functional harmony. Here's the major key version. It shows you what I've been laying out. You can simply follow the arrows on the chart to find out where your chords can head to next. The 1 chord at the end highlights its importance and how all functional progressions are driving towards the 1 chord. This can help you to finish chord progressions you might not have completed. Even if the rest of the progression isn't functional, if you're stuck with where to go next, then see if you can apply the rules discussed. Be aware that if your progression is going to loop, think about the first chord and how the progression ends to make a functional loop. I'll create an example now and show you how it works on the chart. I'll start on the tonic 1 chord, but as discussed, you can start anywhere you want. You are free to move anywhere after the tonic, so I'll go to the predominant 4. From 4, I'll move to the other predominant 2 to extend the feeling. You can see this is in the same bracket on the chart. From here, I'll move to a dominant chord. In this example, I'll choose the 7 diminished chord. Dominant chords want to move to tonic chords. I'll use 6 here as the tonic for a weaker resolution in the middle of the progression. You can see an arrow on the chart from 5 to 6 to show that this is a valid movement. Now I'm back at a tonic chord, I can move anywhere again. In this example, I'll move again to the 4 predominant chord. The difference this time is I'll move from 4 to 1 for the weaker cadence. There's an arrow on the chart to show this. Now back at the home station of 1, I'm going to jump straight down the hill and play 5. Ending on the dominant here is because I want the whole progression to repeat again, and because it starts with 1, the rules are still being applied. Just make sure on the final repeat you move to a tonic chord after the 5 to end. This gives you the following progression: 1, 4, 2, 7, 6, 4, 1, 5. Listen to how that sounds now. Remember that functional harmony is not the be-all and end-all of harmony. It is a tool amongst many to be used for certain effects. There are many ways to write progressions, and this is just one of them. Music can be intentionally non-functional as well, just like there are roller coasters that don't use a traditional lift hill or that don't have flat sections. The thing is, everything I just told you is completely useless if you don't know how to construct chords. Watch the video on screen next to learn how to construct 31 different types of chords and how to use them in progressions.